From a comeback that fans have been losing their minds over to the sudden rescheduled fight against Ciryl Gane, things are looking rough for Jon Jones. At least that's what Daniel Cormier predicts. Even though Jones was scheduled to fight Francis Ngannou before, it suddenly got cancelled because Ngannou and the UFC aren't exactly on the best terms right now.
First of all, because of his inhumane knockout power.
Oh, definitely. Francis is an amazing fighter. Him starting in so fast, and he's got great power. He's very athletic. He's a big heavyweight. He's definitely showing it, and that's why he's here.
Ciryl is not just another guy they shoved into the whole situation. He's a force to be reckoned with. Cormier gave his own take on his YouTube channel and talked about the much-anticipated fight as well as his predictions for it. The former heavyweight and lightweight champion said that there's no doubt the fight is going to be the most anticipated one in a while. With Jon Jones coming back after almost 3 whole years, everyone wants to see what he's worked on and how he's improved. I have to say though, we have to take Cormier's predictions with a grain of salt, especially because he and Jones have been long-time rivals. It makes sense why DC wants to see his nemesis lose to Gane, and why he wanted the same even when he was supposed to be competing with Ngannou. The whole fight with Ngannou was going to be dangerous, and now that it's not happening, Jones shouldn't be celebrating. Ciryl Gane is a killer in the octagon, and at 6'4" and almost 250 pounds, he's not to be taken lightly. But it's not like Jon Jones has never seen someone with that much power. Of course, none of his other opponents have come close to Ngannou in terms of power, but that's what made their potential fight so fascinating.
Gane moves so much over 25 minutes tonight, right? He's going to be a hard heavyweight, I think, for many people to hit cleanly.
Yeah, and as he matures and gets even better, rounds out the skill set of the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu and the cage control.
Even though it's not going to be the same fight, it's still going to grab the fans' attention, Cormier warned. Jones' new opponent is not less dangerous than Ngannou and may even pose a greater threat to him because of his fighting style. DC said it, not me. It makes sense though, because when it comes to Gane's skills, there's not a single doubt that he's a great fighter and that he knows some very clever techniques. And while Jon Jones is an amazing fighter too, he's a bit predictable. Bones barely moves around during a fight. Daniel knows this better than anyone because he's seen his enemy and even gone up against him, staying still for the most part. Apparently, Gane's movement and the way he attacks is going to be something that Jones is going to have to keep an eye out for. Bones is very stationary and going forward for the most part. According to Cormier, he's still amazing at using long-range weapons when it comes to taking control of fighters in the octagon.
But ultimately, it's not about him and I anymore. It's about him and this undertaking. Him finally going up to fight at heavyweight. And honestly, it has the potential to be a crazy fight. I was talking to Rogan today, and we bounced off of each other back and forth the things about the fight and how excited we both are to call this fight. Because it's a big one.
That's all well and good, but it's not going to be enough to overtake Gane in the ring, because not only is he a big guy, but he knows all the techniques and can move around. That's a triple threat right there. Jones needs to move around a bit in the ring, which seems impossible considering his track record. DC thinks this is a huge factor when it comes to Jones not winning the fight. Also, it's worth mentioning that Jones is very flat-footed. Gane isn't, and that's a huge advantage that the French fighter has over him. Cormier presented a pretty detailed analysis of what his thoughts are on the fight, as you can see. He also talked about Gane's skills and how that will impact the outcome of the fight. Gane is only 32, but I have to say, he's still an experienced fighter and a master of his craft, and Cormier agrees. He also mentioned how Gane has gone up against Ngannou, which is going to create more problems for Jones. He's fought some big names, and it seems like Jones is just another one on the growing list. But hey, Jones is no rookie himself. Even though he and DC are bitter rivals, they both know that when it comes to Jon Jones' fight IQ, nobody is touching him. He's just that good, and when you've been in the game so long, it's only natural you develop a skill like this. Daniel also said that since this is Jones' official comeback, he's not going to be holding back. After all, he's training with Henry Cejudo, who has a brilliant fight mind. Those are DC's own words. It seems like even Cormier has a lot of appreciation for Henry because there just aren't many people like him anymore. He knows MMA better than anyone right now.
Things are good. Things are good, Mark. I'm back in it. The drive's back. Training every single day.
And Jones sure knew what he was doing when he asked Henry to prep him for this comeback. It's a very smart decision, thinks Daniel. With the way Daniel Cormier has so much to say about this fight, you'd think he has something huge riding on this. In the long video he posted on his YouTube channel, he kept bringing up the weight difference between the two fighters. This isn't just particular to Gane, though. Cormier thinks that even if Jones was going up against Ngannou, he'd be in a pickle. Even his weight and size would have presented a huge challenge for Jones. Still, it would have been an amazing match either way, because the two fighters are amazing in their own ways. Here's the main issue though, and it's not what you'd think. It's not like Jones has gotten worse because he's been out of the octagon for so long, or that he doesn't have the same skills anymore. Those are things we'll find out on the day of the fight. The main problem for Jones here is that he's competing against guys who are in a completely different level of heavyweight. That's probably the biggest warning sign for him. Still, longtime fans of Jones are hoping that his old fighting style is going to be enough for everyone. Everyone knows that he has a very distinct fighting style, the same long-range weapons that Cormier talked about before. He knows what he's good at and can make it work to overcome opponents like Daniel Cormier. For Ciryl Gane though, he's going to have to up the pressure a bit, and it seems like he's working on it with Henry. If you're a longtime Jon Jones fan, you already know a lot about his fighting style. He knows that he's good at a certain strategy, and it works, because he's defeated a lot of people in the ring because of it. Even though Bones can use long-range weapons to overpower people like Cormier in the octagon, this might not be enough to defeat Gane. As I talked about before, Ciryl is a triple threat. His touch and never get touched mentality is something that's going to be a bit tricky for Jones. Still, it looks like Bones is determined to make his comeback an iconic one, and he probably won't stop at anything to defeat the 32-year-old. I can say the same thing about Gane too. He grew up watching Jones and others like Jones. Even though it's an honor for Ciryl to compete against him, he has all the more reason to win and make his younger self proud. Of course, it definitely helps if you have fighters like Cormier rooting for you and thinking you're going to win against the great Jon Jones. After all, Cormier and Jones have a long history.
He did a good job of not overextending himself and not giving me positions to go get the leg.
Now let's go to the eye poke. The eye poke.
I mean, look at my eye.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah.
It's nasty.
I couldn't see the rest of the fight.
How is it?
And it's very unlikely that anyone knows Jones as well as Cormier. If you were a UFC fan in 2010, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Their rivalry was the rivalry of the decade, and Cormier has also been in the same spot as Jones a few times. Both of them have fought and are going to fight for a vacant title. It seems like despite the rivalry, Cormier didn't hold back from dropping a few pieces of advice. At this point, who knows if Jones is going to make use of it or not. But seeing someone he's been colleagues with for a long time have faith in someone much more inexperienced than him, it might just be a little demotivating for Jones, don't you think? That's all for what Daniel Cormier has predicted for the big fight.